Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at Teva Pharmaceutical Industries. It is time for another update, and on this chart we have been tracking this idea of a larger 1-2 setup that is to be formed, where we have already formed the larger wave 1 to the upside, and in the wave 2 we are still looking for this correction to extend largely into this area of support between the $4.9 level all the way down to the 28-cent level. Now, we don't need too deep of a retracement into those levels. Even a quick week into the first level of support is sufficient within a three-wave structure to have fulfilled basically all the expectations within this correction and have a reliable base for a larger wave 3 to be formed within the next decades. Now, so far we have not managed to get into the area of support, and if we manage to break above the 78.6% retracement at the $42.8 level, it would really be a signal to us that this structure is likely going to extend directly higher, but I wouldn't necessarily have the same probabilities for a third wave to the upside to be formed, in my opinion, where I honestly may need to be considering different structures that could in the end unfold within this area, since we would not manage to form the larger expectation structures that would allow a more reliable pattern to be formed overall. But at the moment we are still within the area of resistance, and we have potentially formed an initial 5-wave move to the downside in a wave A, so we are still looking with high likelihood for a larger retracement in the wave 2, again, as long as we hold, especially here below the $42.8 level. And by the way, before we head into the smaller time frame, even if we form a top here in the wave B and head in the wave C to the downside, I wouldn't expect a very deep retracement. I might not even see the 50% retracement being reached and already forming a bottom within this larger wave 2. Now, in this movement to the upside, however, I do still expect further continuation higher at the moment, and that is not necessarily a problem. Even in the previous videos, we did have a scenario that would have allowed us to extend directly higher, where, in orange, we had a larger A, B, C movement that could have already formed a top where the wave B would have been a triangle, and the wave C already had a 5-wave move to the upside, but we managed, even though in spite of having a potential 5-wave move to the downside, we managed to break above the resistance levels that we have provided for a potential wave 2. And clearly, this area of resistance was highly relevant. It did create 3 rejections, maybe even 4 if we count this one, but 3 large rejections at a 61.8% retracement, and then even at the 78.6% retracement, it created one. But we have managed to hold a sustained break above this area, and surely enough, a very, very strong movement followed afterwards. So these levels, the 78.6% retracement in particular, is very relevant for telling us when a structure is likely to fail. And since in the orange scenario we did not manage to follow through, this pattern has failed and we don't expect it to actually unfold anymore. And we can even go ahead and remove it from the chart, because this structure in orange could have not been adjusted for it to still work out, and now we are left with the ABC movement in the blue interpretation, where in the wave 5 we are expecting a 5-wave move to the upside. We are tracking an impulse overall, but I also have a different scenario actually, where before that I want to add this on the chart in blue, but I just wanted to point out that there are other interpretations that would still allow further extensions higher. Something like a WXY, where the wave X would have been a triangle, but in the wave Y we would have here an ABC structure. And I wanted to point out that we may even want to track this for a slightly preference for the clarity of having this structure in a wave C to the upside unfold basically as a wave C instead of a wave 5, not necessarily because it would not have the same pattern, because both of them would expect a 5-wave move to the upside and both of them could unfold as an ending diagonal, but within the wave C it might have more sense to build this much of a strength in this movement, basically, because within this movement we only have a wave 1 and 2 complete. We might have a wave 3 complete, although even here I would probably prefer further extensions, and then with a 4th and a 5th we might get into the 100% extension territory of this wave A, or the wave 3 in blue, which again, yeah, might make more sense to be a wave Y in an orange interpretation. In the end, we will be tracking the same structure. I just wanted to point that out because this way we can have an additional ideal target to look for within this pattern that is expected to form in this area. Now, with that said, again, both interpretations, both scenarios are tracking a 5-wave move, and we will be tracking that idea in white because, again, it is for both of them. None of them actually have different expectations for this movement that is being tracked. And in this movement, in this area, we do see, we have been tracking the idea of a large ending diagonal to be formed, and we do see that we did not manage to get to the area of support that we were tracking. We actually had here the wave A top previously, it appears. Or maybe I adjusted it without noticing, but anyway, we did not manage to get here into the area of support, and that may cause actually early exhaustion of this larger movement to the upside, where we do begin to already see some divergences occur here on the daily and even on the 4-hour time frame. And I am tracking within this structure to the upside within this wave 3, still ideally an ending diagonal, because in this initial wave 1 up we have an ABC movement, and we clearly cannot really be tracking this as a 5-wave move to the upside, potentially as a double 1-2-1-2 setup. But in the end, this shouldn't affect us too much at this point, because I will be keeping in mind the potential impulse to still be formed in such an idea, but I would need to hold certain levels of support, and right now those are not necessarily the focus. Right now I want to focus on this area, because within this movement to the upside we see the momentum still increasing at this point. We do still see the potential to extend even higher, where I could consider this movement in a couple of scenarios. So firstly, I would like to consider a potential impulse even to be formed within an ABC movement in this area, where this could be a 1-2-1-2 setup, and then a third wave could be expected to form. But for such an interpretation, I would need to reach certain targets within such a movement, such a wave 3. Again, we are always looking here for a wave 3 to get to the ideal target of extensions, which is the 138.2% extension of the wave 1 around the $35 level. If we don't manage to get here within this scenario that we will be tracking in green, we will need to consider a different approach to this structure. So a couple of things could happen other than this. It could be that this structure is complete within a wave C, and we had here a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It could be done, although it was quite an extended wave 5. And then we would be considering the larger wave 3 in white complete. We wouldn't need any additional highs to actually consider this pattern done, and it, in an ABC movement, it could already be done. But with the momentum that still seems to be ongoing, and even the pre-market pricing that actually still seems to push higher, we do need to keep in mind that this structure could extend, although from a divergence perspective we do start to see some decline, and we do need to be prepared for a more significant top to be formed here in the near term. But if we don't manage to get to those levels and head in a larger correction, I need to consider the interpretation that this wave C could unfold as a larger ending diagonal, where the wave 3 could top at any point, because we have already even reached the ideal target for an internal wave C in this area. And let me track this in yellow for clarity. But yeah, in this idea, I am tracking in the wave 3 an ABC movement, where in the wave C, again, we have reached the 100% extension. We did push sufficiently high to consider this pattern complete. We have enough waves to track a 5-wave move to the upside internally in this area, and we should be prepared for a larger correction to occur. Now, this would be based considering that the wave 3 top has already been formed, and the levels of support would start here at the $28.4, and I wanted to make this yellow, all the way down to the 61.8% retracement at the $23.9 level, where as long as we hold this area and we don't form too large and out of proportion correction within the wave 4, we should be prepared for further continuation higher, still within a larger ABC movement in this area in this larger wave 3 in white. So for these reasons, I am actually still looking for considerable extensions within this larger wave B. I am not ready to look for a top to already be in place. I don't have any evidence that this structure is coming to an end. And to be honest, even if this larger area of support in yellow fails we would really only consider that this wave 3 in white would be done, and we would still be looking for an even larger area of support in the wave 4 in white. Yeah, then we would still expect the fifth to build either the larger scenario, one of the larger scenarios in blue or in orange to complete this larger wave B. That would be expected to complete, whoops, this meant to be orange, but that would be expected to complete this larger correction in this wave 2. And for now, there really isn't much else to add. I'm just thinking what else I might add to provide further clarity in this area. But yeah, again, we are looking still for further extensions higher. We are still looking for a likely diagonal pattern to be formed within this area. An extension within an impulse is possible, but for that I would expect still further continuation higher within the green scenario, and we will be considering further areas of support that will need to be held for this interpretation to actually work out in the end. And I don't think it is necessary to focus on the larger area of support in the white scenario, and not just yet anyway. But for now, these are the levels, this is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what else you want me to cover, and I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.